some recent events with regards to a Turkish journalist in Jerusalem. And I'm not even, frankly, to be honest, familiar with all the details, but I believe you want to tell us something about that.
Yeah, the journalist, I don't know if he's Turkish, a national. His name is Mustafa Al-Kharoof. Could be Turkish, but I'm not sure. But what I am sure is that this so-called journalist works for the Turkish Anadolu agency. This is not like CNN or BBC. Well, BBC, yes, but it's not like CNN or any other private news agency. It's the official press agency of the neo-Ottoman, Hamas-loving regime of Erdogan, Sultan Erdogan in Turkey.
The protege of the Muslim Brotherhood.
Right. And if you listen to the video of the incident,
perhaps describe to us the incident in question. Those who are not familiar.
The videographer is speaking Turkish, so at least there was one Turk there. There were pretty bad riots, stone throwing, traffic blocking.
This was in Jerusalem.
In East Jerusalem, and the cops were having a devil of a time. The Border Patrol in particular was having a devil of a time dealing with this problem. And the reporters, particularly this Anadolu journalist, so-called journalist, was interfering in the work of the police. You have to understand that these guys who work for Anadolu are actually given paramilitary training by the Turkish armed forces. Not, defensive driving, how to operate in the field with tactical units, how to operate drones. I mean, these guys are kind of weaponized so-called reporters. They aren't. So when you look at this whole situation, now, it looks bad. It always looks bad because you only get the tail end of something where one of the border patrolmen he's kicking the hell out of this guy. They're beating him up. The Turkish government, through their various aid agencies and their reporters, mostly from the Anadolu press agency, are basically Hamas's face in East Jerusalem. Anadolu should not be allowed to have a bureau in Israel. Their reporters should not be vetted. They are not reporters. They are the long arm of this neo-Ottoman pro-Hamas government in Ankara. The fact that the Israel Press Council, a group that will fight to the last drop of someone else's blood to defend the absolute right of reporters to say the most stupid things in the world, said that Itamar Ben-Gvir's attempted intervention on behalf of this border patrolman was a violation of the separation of powers during wartime. Excuse me? That's a whole new concept. That's like humanitarian law. I never heard of this before. What fevered brain came up with this idea of a separation of powers during wartime? Excuse me. These people who are saying this don't seem to understand that their reportage sometimes has to go through a military censor. Now, is that a violation somehow of the separation of powers during wartime? Well, I can guarantee you, if they tried to play that with that situation, they wouldn't get any publication rights at all. So here you have a border patrolman, one or two, it's not clear, whose actions were taken out of context, who are operating under the most impossible rules of engagement, defending us. They're putting their lives on the line for us. And somehow these are the bad guys? I hope, for the sake of our safety, that Ben-Gvir is able to reinstate this border guardsman. I would even give him a promotion and whatever else, like a decoration for doing what he should do. Anadolu, the bottom line on this is Anadolu and some of the other Turkish NGOs and brotherhood organizations in East Jerusalem are subversive elements that are basically the face of Hamas in East Jerusalem. We have to start digging them out, expelling them, and closing them down. And
this is what's referred to as hybrid warfare.
It is. Thank you. I yield. You're 100% right. It's called hybrid warfare. When you send a reporter who is trained by a foreign military in paramilitary operations into a war zone, that is not my concept of a journalist. Okay, that is a hybrid war representative of his government.
He's a foreign combatant.
In a sense, yes. Under the concept of hybrid war that you just described, yes, he could be considered a combatant. So what the only mistake that the border guard in question made was to have been filmed. And that wasn't his mistake. Why? Because when these events happen, there are technical means of blanking out all electronic devices in the area, and that includes cell phones.
Or to quote our enemies, who have actually invented this term of late for obvious reasons, because they're trying to whitewash what the Hamas did on Shmini Aseret, on the 7th of October. Their new term is by any means necessary.
Right.
And I for one agree. We must fight our enemies by any means necessary.
Any means. And who do I blame for this? I don't blame the poor cop that was just trying to defend our interests. I blame the government, again, for not recognizing that Hamas has another front right there in East Jerusalem. And they refuse to close down the schools that are circulating and teaching their noxious ideology. They have refused to close down all the organizations that are funded by governments like Turkey in support of Hamas. They won't do it. And so what? East Jerusalem's going to become another Gaza with rockets launching and hostages taking? Mark my words, if we don't get a handle on Hamas's presence in East Jerusalem, we will have hostage taking in East Jerusalem, and it will be a balagan beyond belief.
I'm afraid that, as usual, you are correct. And I'm afraid that I have no choice but to agree with you. And I repeat, war is to be fought against such enemies by all and any means necessary.
Correct.
Once again, I thank you, Jonathan Pollard, for your time and for your words of wisdom. All the best.
Thank you.
Shalom u'nisahon. Peace and victory.
Gam lachem.